Okay, and welcome back to our 15th Shiur. Today we're going to be learning about preparing for Pesach, and I have a sneaky suspicion that we will also be doing a model Seder, so stay focused, stay in tune, because Bez Hashem, we will be conducting a very exciting model Seder, I think. Okay, we'll tune you. We will update you on that very shortly. We will begin, of course, as always, with Torah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. Well, Torah is what we're going to learn. We'll start with Tzedakah. Make sure you have your coin. If you're not, please start bringing him. And giving Tzedakah for all those that need it. For Shalema, Gedoyle Tzedakah, Shemikareves Es HaGeula. And join me, Kapitel Chaf, for refuah for the world, geula for the world, bitachon for the world, and of course, the ultimate redemption. So let's join together. Lam natzeyach mizmar leDavid yancha Adonai b'yom tzara yisagevcha Shem Elohei Yaakov yishlach azecha mikodesh Omitzion Yizadeka Yizkarka Min Kaisaka Ve'oilascha Yidash Nesela Yitein Lecha Chilva Vecha V'chol Atzazcha Yemalei Nenanana B'Yeshua Secha Ov'Shem Eloheinu Nidgail Yemalei Adonai Kol Mishalei Secha Ato Yadaiti Ki Hoshia Adonai Meshichai Yaneyo Mishmei Katzoi B'Gevurais Yesha Yeminai Elev Adechem Yelev Asusim Anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Naskir Heima Kado V'Navalo Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisoidot Adonai Hoshia Hamelech Yaneinu V'Yayim Kareinu. And for today, Sefer HaMitzvahs, question number 1. Today, Sefer HaMitzvahs is today's Sefer HaMitzvahs. Today's Shiur, by the way, is for the Refuah Shlema, particularly about Shalom ben Sarah, and as the Rebbe fondly would call Sidney Hech, and for all the others that need a speedy recovery and a miraculous recovery in the special month of Nisan. Now, the mitzvah, like yesterday, is the halachas about mikvah, that to finish off the process of tahara, one of the things we have to do is go into a mikvah, and it is a mitzvah to follow all the different halachas of what size the mikvah has to be, and that will depend on what type of mikvah it is. Is it like a pool style? Is it a stream, a river, ocean? So to know all those halachas. Okay, and today, as we mentioned, first of all, we do have a couple of raffles, and plenty of other exciting prizes. We're still very thankful. Everyone, take a moment, pick up your right hand. If you're not sure which one it is, it's the and give yourself a good tap. And incredible that even though we're already in the holiday season, learning Torah, the world stands on your Torah, as we say the special tefillah, that the Eibishter should give us a part in his Torah, and he should show us the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Yiratzai milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoseinu sheyabane Beis Hamikdash v'meinu v'yameinu v'seikol keinu v'seida secha. So as mentioned, we do have raffles, we do have exciting story. And now for today's lesson and question. So the last time we ended off, we finished Erev Pesach, we already burnt our chametz. Now it's time to get ready for the Seder. So the couple of things we have to do. First of all, it's still Erev Pesach. We got to prepare. Make sure much better to prepare everything before it's Yom Tov, because your biggest issue is going to be making your zroya. Our custom is to use a neck of a chicken. That's the Chabad custom. As you'll notice, many pictures have the drumstick, a pulke, the leg of a chicken, piece of a chicken. We use dafki the zroya. One of the reasons we use it is because it is a very distinct part of the chicken. Now, despite the fact that we're remembering the Korban Pesach, it is absolutely usher to eat or to show that you're eating a carbon outside the Beis Hamikdash, even today's day and age. So that's important to note that, because I'm about to tell you a couple of things which will connect to a couple of things. I hope you're not confused yet. Now, the carbon Pesach, right? So even though we're going to have a piece of meat on our Seder plate commemorating the carbon Pesach, we want to be absolutely sure that, very good, that it doesn't look like a carbon Pesach. So that's why we use a piece of meat, not only a piece of meat. We actually don't use a meat, we use dafka chicken, which, by the way, a chicken cannot be brought on the Mizbeach, as you'll know. I'm hoping you're paying attention to the week's parshas. You can bring a bull, you can bring sheep, a goat, or birds, but now you don't bring actually a rooster or a chicken. By the way, that's also why we use that for kaparas, to show clearly that we're not bringing a carbon. L'chaim. Ready to be my shahakal, and it's seltzer. Don't get excited. Okay, so what we're going to do is use a very distinct piece. Now, our custom is to use a zreya for a couple of reasons. As I mentioned, first of all, it's a very noticeable that it's not from an animal. It's a very noticeable chicken neck. Now, interesting also because it's called zreya. Does anyone know what zreya actually means? Amazingly, anyone? Yeah, it means bizroya netuya, that Hashem took us out with an outstretched, with an arm, right? So that kind of shape, although ironically it's not outstretched, but that's the kind of a shape of a arm. Okay, that's our minhag. Now, just so you know, our minhag is, and the Rebbe would, if you come to my Seder plate, don't come. Well, Mashiach will be here. But you'll notice very, very black hands if you don't do it on time. To try, the Rebbe would actually be even more careful and take off every last piece of meat, or try as much as possible, should I say. It should be completely burnt. Now it's roasted. The Rezoraya is roasted, so it should look like, commemorate, remind ourselves about the Korban Pesach, but it should be absolutely clear that it's not the Korban Pesach, and therefore that I would actually remove all meat to show very clearly that we're not eating the meat. Now here's a problem. If you did not make your Zeraya before Yom Tiv, and you remember our shir last time that you cannot cook from one day to the next, and you're just not allowed to cook on Yom Tov for nothing. So if you broil your carbon Pesach, if you roast your Zroya tonight, that's roasting for nothing. You can't eat the meat. So you're going to actually have to eat the meat, but you should not eat it tonight. You can eat it tomorrow, so long as it's the same day. Okay, hello. Let's go. Let's focus. So one thing, so you're preparing your Zroya, and like you said, be so careful about carbon Pesach. So therefore, our question after what's today say for our mitzvahs was, what are the two things you should not do about meat? Number one, tonight at the Seder, you should not have roasted meat. You should not have meat that looks like roast. Even during Shulchan Aruch, you should not have roast. Because, again, no one should be mistaken. We want to remember, first, I guess maybe also you could say maybe that we want to save that taste for times of Mashiach, but that's just a drasha. But bottom line is you cannot do anything that might look like you're eating a carbon. So the first thing you don't want to do about meat is, well, however you cook the meat tonight, don't make it broiled, don't make it roasted, only in juice or whatever it is. Number two, when you're actually cooking the meat, now, do you know the short way how to say carbon Pesach? Pesach. So when you're cooking the meat, someone say, hey, what's that for? You shouldn't say, oh, I'm cooking this meat for Pesach, because it's actually like saying I'm cooking this meat for the carbon Pesach. So that's the second thing we should be very careful, that when we make our meat, don't say, oh, this meat's for Pesach, because that actually translates as I'm making this meat for the carbon Pesach, so be careful. All right. Now moving on, of course, making sure your eggs are ready, making sure that we are very careful with so you just to say Yom Tov. Okay, I'm making it for Yom Tov, making it for tonight. Just be careful what we say. Okay, now we want to make sure our Zreya is ready, our Beitza is ready. Make sure it's better. Make sure it's cooked before. Of course, if it's not cooked before, you could cook it on Yom Tov because you're going to eat that Beitza tonight. And of course, making sure that there's no boogies in our lettuce. And if you think that's just someone's imagination, go check your lettuce. Blah. Every time we check our lettuce, we always find treasures. So, yeah, even the ones that say check blah blah, make sure you check them. And of course, as we're going to get into our next subject, half of your lettuce needs to be 1 billion. Okay, we'll give you a discount, 1,000,000% dry, because it's part of it's going to be used for your koyrech. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, now you know what? Let's get into it now. So now we have to deal with very carefully the way we're going to handle our matzah tonight. The Chabad custom is to be absolutely, because we want to be, like I said, Pesach, we're extra careful. So it's also, first of all, Begashmis, the halacha of Pesach is different. Why are we so careful about Pesach? Because usually a dot of something that's not allowed is insignificant. Say by mistake a dot of milk fell into a big cholent pot. Okay, not to get you too confused, but that could actually be batul, right? If a drop falls in, and there's 60 times, so one drop of milk falls into a cholent that has 100, so long as it has 60 times more, it's actually not a problem. On Pesach, even the tiniest dot is totally usur, and you're not allowed to have any pleasure from it at all. So we're extra careful. Of course, it's the more spiritual idea to be so careful. The chametz, who remembers from yesterday? What does the chametz represent? The Yaitzahudeh. And we want to make sure that it's the Yom Tif, because it's the Yom Tif that we're born as a nation. Yes, it's the Yom Tif that we were called Tzivas Hashem. Hashem says, on this day, I brought my Tzivas Hashem out of Mitzrayim. It's the Yom Tif that we are born. And like a newborn baby, want to be so careful. Do you know, like when you're newborn, you say, oh, don't let the baby touch the floor. It's so germy. Don't let the baby's sussy falls out, the pacifier, the dummy falls out, whatever you call it over there. It falls on the floor. You say, oh, let's be so careful, wash it. And the baby, be so gentle with the baby. I'll put out the perfect nappies. No, that nappy's not perfect enough. And gross, actually. Yeah, we're so careful every little teeny dot, because the baby's so pure and delicate. As we born as a nation, we're going to be so pure and delicate. We want to be so absolutely careful, and therefore we're careful with something called gebracht. Now, as one of your multiple choice, no, gebracht. Oh yeah, bracht. No, it's not a way of complaining in Yiddish. Gebracht is when you get liquid, water or liquids that were mixed with water, on your matzah. Now, I'll tell you a very good story about it. So there are some people that eat gebrachs, and I mentioned the story. I think it's worth mentioning it again, that Lubavitch are extremely careful about gebrachs. In fact, truth be told, you should actually not even pass matzah over the table. We eat in bags, and definitely when matzah's on the table, you should not have it uncovered. So what is gebracht? Is it square matzah? Is it matzah balls? Is it a way to complain in Yiddish? Or the final answer, no, it's matzah that was touched with liquid. We're absolutely careful. Why? Because what if there was a drop of flour? Now, it's not a halacha, because we don't have to really worry about it. But on this Yom Tov, we're going to be extra careful. So what if there was a dot of flour that never really mixed in well with the dough? So when the you ever notice like bread sometimes has a little flour on top still? Sometimes the bakery does it on purpose. But it could be sometimes that there's still a little flour left over because it wasn't really mixed into the dough. And even when the whole bread gets baked or the whole matzah gets baked, there's still, could you see the little flour left? Yeah, could you see? I can't, but if you look closely, I could actually. And sometimes a little flour left, and we're worried if it touches a little liquid, that could turn into chametz. It's not an actual halacha, so it's something that we're extra careful with. Now, two things to be careful about gebracht. How are two ways? So first of all, I said that's not the answer, but we should be careful not to pass matzah over the table. Keep it away, keep it aside, and definitely eat over bags. Definitely when it's sitting on the table, completely cover it really well that not even a dot comes on, a dot of water or juice gets onto that matzah. What are the two ways we're careful? So interesting. Number one, like I said, make sure that it's 100% covered on the table. Number two, we're so careful, we're actually going to skip half of our minig of mayim achreinim. You know the mayim achreinim where you put water on your hands and then you wipe your mouth? So until the last day of Pesach, which we are going to eat gebracht specifically, that will leave that maybe for another shiur. But until that day, we just wash our hands. We're not even going to wipe our lips to be so careful about the gebracht. Now I want to tell you a story that was once by the Rebbe. I believe the Rebbe Rashab, it might have been Rebbe Marash, and there was a guest there. He wasn't so careful about gebracht. So he's sitting by the Rebbe Rashab, a little bit of a simple yid. He wanted to make his matzah a little bit yummy. So he dips his matzah into the wine. And of course, someone imagine in front of the Rebbe, he's doing this, gebracht. He's screaming, oi, gebracht. Of course, this made the man feel so embarrassed. Did that come from the Yetzer Tov or Yetzer Hara? That's a good question. The Rebbe Rashab looked up and he said, or again, it might have been the Ramarash, he said, making your matzah red is only a minig, but making your friend's face red is a de'oraisa. That's against the Torah of the Ahafta l'recha kamecha, and don't embarrass your friend. That is more strict. I heard an old joke, I don't know if you'll get it up, but it's a very good line. Of course, you know on Rosh Hashanah we don't eat nuts, because nuts has the same gematria, the numerical value, as the word chet. Egois and chet have the same numerical value. Now, in fact, it only has the chestes, not aleph, chet. Anyways, because when the aleph is missing, that's when chet happens, when you forget about Hashem. Now, sorry for confusing you. So the Gerer Rebbe had a very good line, because we're so careful not to eat nuts on Rosh Hashanah, not to eat nuts because nuts are begematria chet. So the Gerer Rebbe once said, you should remember that also chet is begematria chet. Yeah, we're so careful about all these gematrias, we sometimes forget that an actual Veda, yeah? So just like you have to search for chametz on Pesach, Erev Pesach, and be careful about gebrach. Yeah, it's the same Torah that says, and be kind and don't shout. You're not allowed to have ka'as, anger. You're not allowed to be ungentle, even for a mitzvah. That's what, if you remember, we spoke about, if you were able to hear Monya yesterday on the bakery, how careful we have to be, that even the way we're matzah shmura, that even when we do a matzah and do a mitzvah, that has to be guarded, that the mitzvah shouldn't come chametzdik. Don't make your mitzvahs ruined, because you're going to hurt someone through a mitzvah. Like this guy, oh, be careful, be careful. Don't forget that the same Torah that said, watch what you eat. Same Torah that said, and love your fellow as yourself. I want to tell you a good story. There was a rich boy in, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been Benjamin Kletzker when he was a kid. I don't remember who it was. It's a fantastic story, I think. Just a little anecdote. And he came with a fountain pen. You guys ever saw a fountain pen? A fountain pen was even for today, it's still considered a fancy pen. You can imagine then, no one really had pens. It was a very, right? Maybe some people had these pencils, which was made out of a dangerous type of real lead. But no one really had pens. Only the richie riches. So this rich boy comes, he was a cheder boy. He was in cheder with his other friends. He's from a very chassidish mishpacha. And he comes in with his fancy pen. And of course his friend says, can I borrow it? No. You know that? Yeah, you ever had that feeling? You have something that no one else has? And like, no. The teacher watched this, the cheder teacher watched this, and he says, whatever his name is, Yankel, Binyamin, whatever his name was, he said, could I ask you a question? I want you to start reading the pasuk. Start Bereshis. So he says, Bereshis in the beginning, and the teacher goes, no. Read it again. Bereshis in the beginning, no. Kid's getting a little bit confused. Isn't that what you taught us? Okay, continue, the teacher says. But Elikim, Hashem created. No. What no? Okay, just continue. As the Shemayim, the heaven, no. Now the kid was really confused. He says, do you know what the translation is? Bereshis. This is okay. I hope you understand the story. It's a very deep story, but a lesson for life. And the teacher says, this is the translation. Bereshis, when your friend asks you for a pen, you lend him a pen. But Elikim, that when your friend asks you for a pen, you lend him a pen. As Hashemayim, that when your friend asks you for borrow a pen, you lend the pen. In other words, what are we learning for? What does Hashem want? You learn. We act extra special, extra careful. What is this all about? You know what the Hillel Hazaken said? That the whole Torah, you want the whole Torah on one foot. Is v'ahavta l'recha. Don't do it to your friend what you don't want to yourself. Love your fellow as you love yourself. That is the whole point of all this. And that's the secret. Yeah, so we are careful 100% about gebrach. Just as much. Be careful the way we speak to someone. Be careful the way we interact with others. Okay. Now there's many, as we said, this Yom Tov, we want to get rid of the all chametz and make sure we have zero connection to chametz. And I told you the deeper idea really is, of course, the that you want to really stay far away from your Yetzer Hara. So, dear, I'll mention to you a couple of customs. Now, I asked a funny question. It's not so funny, all right? It's not so funny. But I asked you, name 3 things, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be what I'm mentioning. I'm curious what your family minhagim are. Of course, most families are very, very similar minhagim, especially Chabad, different Chabad minhagim, but there's many, many, many minhagim about being careful about chametz. So I'm curious. All I asked was what's 3 customs that you do. You could mention the one I mentioned, or some things that you do, especially if it's an interesting one. I'm very curious. What are your customs to be? For example, of course, we peel all our fruits and vegetables because when we get it from the store, right? We could, I think now Corona followers could learn from us the way we keep Pesach that we want to get rid of the whole package. Anything that might have been touched, we want to get rid of. So we're going to peel our fruits, crack our nuts, of course, and we don't eat leafy vegetables. Why? Because it's Pesach. Because, of course, you can't really peel a leaf. Now, there are, speaking about funny minhagim, in my house, of course, the only leaf we're going to have, of course, is chazeres. The leaf, the cos, baby cos. In America, we call it romaine lettuce, not Roman lettuce. I always was wondering why we have the Romans, the Chanukah, middle of Pesach. So it's not Roman lettuce, rather romaine lettuce. And so that obviously we could have. It's part of the Seder. Now, that would be my wife's customs different than mine. In our family, because you're allowed romaine lettuce on Pesach, we had that in salads, we had that in anything. My wife's custom is like, no, because you can't peel it, you only use it for the Seder. Anyways, we don't usually, that's why we don't use cabbage. We're not going to use any type of leafy things that you can't peel. Some people have the minute to have a special egg pot. Not because the eggs, you're only going to peel afterwards, so you don't want the eggshells then cook other foods in that same pot. So some people have an exclusive egg pot. Some people boil their sugar to most people. If you're gonna have sugar, my family doesn't have sugar at all. My wife's family, yeah, they do have sugar, but the way you want to be able to sift it, that there's nothing inside. So though you can't sift grain, so what you do is you turn it into a liquid. You cook it up. Yeah, that's why some people have cooked sugar. We don't use any spices. Again, a lot are depending. There's different types of spices that we absolutely don't use regardless. But some of the reasons is because you can't peel them. And we try to use even though salt you can't peel. So we're going to try to use specifically the least touched salt. And that's not the ones used in Shabbos, that little powder salt. It's more of a rockier, coarse means like thicker. A coarser salt. We don't use at all radish or garlic at all. We don't use food that fell on the floor. In fact, dishes that fell on the floor. If it falls on the floor, the minhag is to wash it very well because, of course, a drop of chametz on the floor on Pesach is a problem. And even if you can't see it, the tiniest dot of chametz. So you wash it and put it away till next year. But chalal, okay. Many have the minhag not to eat anything prepared outside their house. That's why Rabbi Lipsker, I'm not saying which one, makes his own wine. And some don't eat milchiks because of that reason. Some don't drink coffee or tea. And some don't use potato starch either. That could be either. So, but a lot of these reasons are kind of from the same reason that we don't eat anything made outside of our house. Okay. I smell that it's soon time for our story. So let's finish up our last couple of things we wanted to prepare before the Seder, not the Cheder. My head's crooked? My daughter's saying, Tati, your head is crooked. But she said it so gently, so not to hurt my feelings. What a mitzvah. Okay. Now, tonight, now we're going to prepare for Kiddush. So there's a couple of things you do need to remember about Kiddush. There's many things. My question was name at least 3 things. Number 1, tonight, we're going to try to use a red wine, specifically red. Now, usually, you don't have to look for red. You just have to use one that you like. If you prefer white, if white is yummier. But especially in today's day and age where there's so many choices, you're supposed to use red. A lot of us remember the blood, not only the makkah, but also our pain. So we specifically going to use red tonight. Okay. Also, of course, men, the way they drink the wine, we're going to see it. We're going to drink it. We're going to drink it leaning. Now, in fact, technically you have to be so careful because if you did not drink your wine leaning, you technically have to drink another cup. Now, if you're paying attention, you have to hold your head because it's a little bit complicated, maybe. But because you cannot make more than 4 hagaffens tonight, because then it will look like you're drinking more than 4 cups. Tonight, we're going to say 4 hagaffens, one by Kiddush, one right before, right by the end of Haggadah, one right after benching, and, of course, the final one after Hallel. Hallel Nirtza, that all the tefillahs that we say to Hashem. Now, you cannot make a 5th hagafen because then it's drinking 5 cups. So here's a problem. If you drink, because you only have in mind to drink this cup, and then you, by mistake, didn't drink leaning, what do you have to do? You have to technically drink another cup. So what you should do is during Kiddush, before you start Kiddush, you should have in mind that I might drink a 2nd cup based on this hagafen. Therefore, you will not have to make a 2nd hagafen. And, of course, if you forgot to make to lean by the 2nd cup, you're allowed to take another hagafen. Because this is right before the meal, you're about to have, right after you make your 2nd hagafen, you're going to have moitzi matzah, you're going to make hamoitzi and start your meal, and you intend to drink grape juice or wine during that meal. Okay, I hope it didn't confuse you, but I'm already confused. So tonight, just a couple things. It should be red wine. You need to drink ungalente, leaning. Preferably, you should actually try to drink the entire cup, if not the whole cup, if not most of the cup, actually in one shot. Try. That's why it's actually better to have smaller cups to get that whole thing down. And try to use specifically red wine. And finally, before we get to our story, our last 2 questions. Besides not making a bracha by orchat, I said red wine, I said ungalente, and I said that. I said, okay. And the third thing about Kiddush is that, of course, tonight you should drink the full. Yeah, I said the third one. You should drink the full. Try to drink it in one shot, or at least most of it in one shot. You should drink the entire becher. Best is to try to drink it in one shot. So the 3 things again were specifically red. Make sure it's leaning. Make sure it's try to get it in one shot. And like I told you, therefore it's best to use the smallest cup. Here's a cool hint. According to our minhag, the view that we hold is that the smallest revi is 86 milliliters. Guess what? 86 is which word? Spell out 86. Is gematria 86. Kois. Kois. The actual word kois, which means becher, is 86. Kaf is 20. Samach is 60. 20 and 60. Very good. Is 80. And vav is 6. 86. So that's a good way to remember what your minimum amount is. Okay, then we make kiddush. We made sure we had in mind to lean. And we are now going to wash. But, whoopa, whoopa, whoopa. You got to be careful about this washing, right? Because it's so confusing. You all learned this probably 20,000 times just in one day, not to make a bracha during the urchat. However, do you have to follow all other laws, like using a towel for those that do that, not to touch the kfar, not to speak? The answer is our minhag is yes. So the answer for your question was, other than, besides making a bracha, one must still follow all the halachas of Natilas Yadayim, and the answer is true, yes. Otherwise, you do have to follow all besides. Now, what do you do if you do make a bracha? Quite complicated. The Rebbe once told someone to, once they made alach to go straight to Moitzi Matzah, but later the Rebbe said, I did regret it, so you have to ask your local Orthodox rabbi what to do. Now, by karpas, now we're going to do karpas. Of course, first thing, we're going to peel it. Like, remember, we're careful not to have any shells. We're going to peel that karpas. And we got to be, what should we be careful about karpas? Is it not to eat more than a kazayas? Is it to have in mind, when we make the hadama, should also have in mind the mar that you're going to eat later? Is it not to lean, or all the above? Yes. It is all the, it's all of the above. You should, number one, make a hadama. When you make the hadama, have in mind right away, you have in mind the morer, but therefore don't eat a kazayas, because then you might have to make a boyer in the fashais, and that gets very complicated. Very complicated. So therefore you eat less than a kazayas. Have in mind the bracha should also be for morer, and don't eat it leaning. The things that we're going to do to remember the sad parts of the Seder, we're not going to do leaning. Okay, now for our rufos. Raffle for Benois Mesib. And then to our famous story. Famous? We'll see. Now, so of course, every week even though Mesiv is not at our home base, but it is at home, and that becomes your base. Very good, because every base will become a base hamikdash, called a mikdash me'at. So you can make your house. I can't go to shul. I can't go to shul. Yes, you can. Make your home a shul, and that's why we made a project to make the mishkan, because your home could become a mishkan. My kids made a beautiful project. We'll show them off a bit later. All the projects is that all the kalim, just like you had vessels in the base of Mikdash, your room could be a little base of Mikdash. There was the kiyar, to wash your hands, you have a negovaster. There was the orain, which held the luchas, you should have a chumash that you own in your room. There was the shulchan that had bread, which represented giving to others food, you have a tzedakah box. There was the mizbechas, to serve Hashem, you have a Seder. And of course, there was the menorah to shed light into the world, Chassidus, you should have a Tanya, that the didn't say clearly, but the Pashtus, and the Hagoda. Okay, so you instead of doing it at base, you did it at home base. Your base HaMikdash at home. And the winner for Shabbos is none other than a big mazel tov to Moshe Letenimboim. Grand. Now we have a raffle for the Sunday Cheder for those that answered the question. And you are going to win a prize. Believe it or not, you believe it? Okay. And the winner is... Aha! Why didn't you write it clear? Oh, there it is. Okay, can you see it? Mazel tov. It's a family holiday. Now, Zalman Greenbaum, thanks for responding. And Zalman, you won the prize. So we owe now to Mayor. And Zalman will please contact us in 6 months when this is all over so we can get you the prize. All right. Just kidding. We'll try to get you. Okay. I have the connection point, but I feel bad. I want a few more boys to respond. We do have quite a beautiful number of connection point applications. I still want to leave that on. I still want you to do connection point. I'm going to do a final, so for sure doing it, Lena. I don't want to say for sure. Tomorrow, I'm just looking for the prizes. 2 amazing prizes of that portable speaker and the beautiful canvas of the Rebbe. Okay, now, this is the beautiful canvas waiting for you to be one, a gorgeous picture, and it's on canvas. And okay, blah, 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 blah. Let's go to our story. Our story takes us back in Spain. Now, generally, they wore these hats in Morocco, but I believe in my story, they also wore it in Spain because they don't have another hat. Okay, so back in Spain, and the year is a little bit after 1492. And unfortunately, Rahman al-Islam in 1492, other than the good thing of Columbus discovering America, he also did not fall off the planet, believe it or not. But that's the same year that Ferdinand Yamach Shemai on Tisha B'Av, this all started, where the prince and princessen, by the way, the Barbanel, the famous Barbanel, was in Spain at the time. I think he was actually offered to stay, but he left with many Yidden that was forced. Unfortunately, the famous Inquisition, where Rahman al-Islam, these anti-Semites forced Yidden to either convert or to get killed, or they could run away, but they had to run away without any property. You leave everything to the country, and imagine I told you that tomorrow you have to leave Australia if you want to remain a Yid. You need to either Rahman al-Islam, I'm not going to say the other choice, but you got to get out of Australia, but you don't take anything with you, not a book, not any money, not your house, all goes to the government. So this was very difficult time. So of course, a lot of Yidden try to leave. Now, in every curse, there's a blessing. By the way, that is how Hasidus, this is way before Hasidus, a couple hundred years before, but that's how Pnimius HaTorah. Pnimius HaTorah, Kabbalah was really only in Sfarad, in Spain, in that area. And not anyone else, B'chlal, were too involved in the secrets of the Torah. But because of the expulsion, like I said, every curse was really a secret blessing. That's how Pnimius HaTorah, the secrets of the Torah, was spread over to all over Europe. And eventually the Baal Shems, and the Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe. And here we are today. Now, we're in the office while Dan Emmanuel Iagular is having seltzer in his fancy cup. And he was what they call the Moranos. Now, Morano is a disgusting word, so happens to be. Not a nice word. It wasn't given by the Jews. The Maranos were given by the Goyim, the name, and Marano meant, P-I-G, discrocious, because that's the way they laughed at Yid. When they saw a Yid and they suspected him of still being a Yid, they called him the Marano, which actually means the Chazeir. Yeah, very, very disgusting. Regardless, so of course, the church was not so convinced that all these Jews gave up Yiddishkeit completely. So they would send out many times different inquisitors, and they would inspect, and they would live in houses for many, many months, sometimes years. Sometimes they just, that's it. If the government wanted it, especially if the church wanted, the church had all the power, they wanted to send a representative of the church, and that's it. You have to just give up. That's it. They could pick the best room they want in the house, and you had to live there. Now, in this specific house, lived a disgusting, despicable. It was a Yiddish house, but they claimed to be converts, Chmano Litzlan, what they call anusim, which means forced. But of course, somewhat they would try to keep Yiddishkeit, but very secretly, and the church suspected them. And unfortunately, one day in Dan Emanuel's house, there's a knock on the door, and he opens it up. Hello, my name is Pedro, and I am the new guest. I am going to stay at your house, and you will give me the bedroom that I want, and the food that I want, and the bathroom that I want. Okay or not okay? Okay, I staying. And unfortunately, to the horror of Dan Emanuel, he became the new guest. Now, he was no gentleman at all, to say the least. Other than the fact that a weird hair, which I don't know if that's historically true, but in our case, he did. He was absolutely disgusting. Even to the goyim there, even to the maids there. Hey, maid, I want a coffee right now. Here, sir. Why'd you bring me a coffee? I want a tea right now. And stop screaming. And he would be disgusting to the entire household. Of course, Emmanuel wanted him out more than anything. Well, first of all, Emmanuel would secretly do different mitzvahs in hiding. But this was extremely dangerous. And he really wanted him out with it. At least he had a good excuse, because he was a disgusting being, this Pedro. And he would press whatever he wanted and ask whatever he wanted in the middle of the night. Maid, right now, I need soup right now. And he would just stuff his face, do whatever he wanted, make everyone annoying. Okay, maid, okay, bring me 14 pillows. 40 pillows right now. Okay, leave the 14 over there and bring me another 12, because I'm just doing a math problem. Okay, 14 plus 12. Okay, I'm not sure. And it was a wreck for the house. Finally, enough was enough. Emmanuel was first too scared to complain, because lest he be accused that he was just trying to get rid of Pedro. But finally, after all of the maids said, "Get rid of this monster, please." So, after about 6 months, it's now about Hanukkah time, Dan Emanuel pens a letter to the church, and he writes all the titles that he felt that he was forced to write of honor, and he writes, "Unfortunately, we were so happy to host your representative, but look, Pedro has found nothing against us, and all he does is wrecks the house. He is destructive. He's disrespectful. He's an embarrassment to the church. He's making a chil church and a chil Christians. He is despicable and disrespectful. All the maids say that he ruins everything, and please take him away." So the church was quite embarrassed. Of course, they saw it was true that Pedro was there for months, and Pedro had nothing to report against this family, and they were horrified. They always, even though they were the biggest Rishonim, tortured and killed people but they always wanted to make believe like they were so nice. They said, representative making a chilul church, get him out. So it didn't take long for Pedro to get a letter, and now it's already, after the back and forth of letters, it's already about Shvat time, and Pedro gets a letter. Wow, what a chutzpah, and I'm not even Jewish. Wow, I must leave. I make a chilul church. They are complaining against me. Oh, this is very not good. This is trouble. I am definitely, I don't know why I'm wearing my master's hat, but master no more, and I'm the master. I will leave, but they haven't held the last of me. I'm going to leave, but and with that, Pedro, embarrassed, he left the house, not before swearing that he would take revenge of the entire family. Pedro was thinking what he could do, but he knew that the Emmanuel family was quite respected by the Goyim as a famous convert who was so dedicated and trusted by the church, and now he was stuck. He can't just cause them problems. I need to figure this out. One day, Pedro did not move far away from the house because he is sworn that he will take revenge. One day he sees one of the maids walking in the street. Tell me, señorita, how is the house? I miss it, It was so nice. I don't even know why they threw me out. But how's the food? Yeah, good, yes. And the meat, yummy meat. I haven't eaten meat for like three and a half seconds. But I miss it so badly. Tell me about the meat. How do they prepare it? Well, funny you mention it. Actually, we don't know. We prepare all the other food, but we don't actually prepare the meat. Interesting. Very interesting. Who prepares? Oh, the mother of the house. She doesn't deal with any of the food, but the meat, they have their own place for it. And the yummy cheeseburger. How the cheeseburger or some nice milk and meat. We never saw such a thing. Now, Pedro goes back home. And he thinks he might be on. Of course, this was no proof of anything. But I think I might be onto something. Okay, very nice. I have a plan. A devious, okay, someone else's lines. Okay, I have a plan. And Pedro was just waiting for a few more weeks because he knew that in a few more weeks would be Pesach. Back in the Emmanuel house, quietly, secretly preparing for Pesach. Only in the middle of the night would Emmanuel go down. And, of course, every room was clean anyways. But in the basement, secretly starting to bake matzahs. The way they had to make a special oven that the air, the way it should, the special type of chimney that no one should smell the smoke coming out in the middle of the night. They connected it to their fireplace, which just smell like the regular fireplace. And at last, the beautiful matzahs that was made. The days were nearing, and finally, it was time for the Seder. As every night, it was 8 o'clock, and everyone went to sleep. The maids tucked in all the beds, all the kids to bed. Everyone went quietly to sleep. And then, including Emmanuel, and of course, even though the halacha that you cannot eat the afikomen after 12, but this would be different. The dangers that were involved. And 12 o'clock, Emmanuel, with a special type of excitement, a nervous but excitement. How few times they had the ability to serve Hashem throughout the year. And this was one of those special times. Waking up all the kids quietly into the basement. And they snuck into the basement. Each one would fill their beds a little bit just in case the nurses, the maids would come maybe. And now everyone's in the basement. And with the biggest sigh of relief, as all the Seder things were put on the Seder plate, and the matzahs were brought out, and with the greatest joy, Emmanuel picked up his becher, and the whole family sang the Kiddush together. The Seder continued as everyone washed with their fancy special types of urchat cups. And then they went to Yachat, and Emmanuel smiled as his kids, with tears in his eyes, remembering him asking the Manashtana in much better times. But at least now, how lucky he is, his kids are still asking the Manashtana. And then on to Magid. But then in the middle of Magid, as he was saying the Haggadah, he seemed to hear something. Some footsteps, some moving around. Emmanuel's face turned white. He looked around and realized that none of his family really realized. And he said, I just have to go to the bathroom. Everyone just continue the Haggadah. I'll catch up in a few moments. With that, Emmanuel slipped out of the room and he went upstairs. One room to the next, everything seemed to be fine. But finally, he opens up one of the rooms. And he could notice that despite every window was closed in the house, one of the window shades were blowing with wind. He quickly grabs the shade and opens it, and he notices the window was open. Emmanuel's heart, he could feel his heart pressing against his shirt. It was banging so hard. He runs downstairs, and he runs downstairs. Okay, bring it to Mom. Bring it to Mom. Bloopers. Okay. All right, Mommy has it. All good. Now, Emmanuel runs outside. He runs to his stable and he notices his best horse is gone. It all came together now. The Pedro that swore he would take revenge. And his suspicions were correct. Pedro snuck in that night. He knew to come late. And Pedro climbed up the tree, one of the trees near the windows. He knew the house quite well. And yanked one of the windows open. Ha 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 ha. Where is everybody? Aha! So all the beds are empty. Ha 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 ha! Now my revenge. I will go tonight to the church. I will become rich. I will take revenge of this Jewish Marano disgusting family and arrest everyone in the house, including the maids, and take my revenge and get much money, mucho dinero. Okay, where is Emmanuel's quickest horse? And with that, he grabbed the horse and started, giddy up to the goal. And Pedro ran on his way. Emmanuel, now frightened, wakes up his servants, tells all his kids, comes back. Okay, let's finish the Seder. I think maybe some people could be suspicious. He wanted to get all the kids into bed. Quickly wakes up his servants. Oi, we had a terrible theft. I think I know who it was. Who else stole our house as much as Pedro? Look, my best horse is stolen. I urgently urge you to go right now. Take the rest of the horses. Chase this thief. Who knows where he is, trying to run away and steal our goods. But don't listen to anything he has to say. Just grab him, tie him up, and bring him back with my horse. Would this work? He thought probably not. Only al piteva, naturally, this plan wouldn't work. Pedro was far away ahead. And of course, his utter fear that when he would meet up with him, he would just tell him that he's a Yid And he would just invite them to go with him to the church and collect the prize with him. But he knew that tonight is a special night. The night where Hashem calls, it's a Leil Shimurim, the night that I guard you. And on this night, just like the first time, thousands of years ago, 3,500 years ago, little less, Hashem protected that night. Not one Jew was harmed as the Malach HaMavis came through Mitzrayim, killing every firstborn in every household. But Hashem protected every Yid. And Hashem promises that tonight is a night of protection. Do you know some Yidden actually have the custom not even to lock their doors? They just leave the doors unlocked. But regardless, it's a night of Shimurim. And he said, Hashem, it's in your hands. Physically, I'm a goner. But just like you saved the Yidden so many years ago, we beg you today, stand up for your honor. Stand up for your people. Let the miracle repeat itself. As he is mumbling his davening, mumbling his tefillin, and his tehillim, and talking to Hashem, already many kilometers away, Pedro, oh, faster! I got the money now! Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! And Pedro's driving his horse, not fast enough! Wow! And he's whipping his horse and whipping that horse, not fast enough! Oh, faster, faster! I need my gold! Oh my God! I'm going to become a hero! Faster! You have to be a hero horse! And he's whipping his horse and whipping faster, faster. And as kilometers away, Emmanuel's whispering his tehillim. And as he begs Hashem from the depth of his heart, faster! The horse became so annoyed of being beat up. The horse all of a sudden stands up. Emmanuel goes, and Pedro goes flying off the horse. And the horse hasn't had his part yet. The horse starts stamping and smashing Emmanuel's head, smashing his stomach until he was out cold. Pedro kicking his head and kicking his stomach. The horse would now take revenge for all that whipping for the last hour and smashed him up. It didn't take 2 hours. And finally, the guards, the servants of Emmanuel's house caught up and they saw the thief. That despicable thief they saw the herding animal with some scratches, and they went and rubbed it, and the horse felt in good company. He recognized all of them. He recognized his horsey friends, and they tied up the body of the despicable Pedro, the thief, as they thought, and they knew. And they brought him on the horse. Of course, that night, Emmanuel could not sleep. They didn't tell anyone in his family what was going on. The sun was already coming out. Emmanuel was really nervous, but trying to hold on to that petachim. In the distance, he could see horses. He's not sure. Could that be police? Could that be soldiers? Could it be my servants? As they're coming closer, he could recognize it is his servants. And a body draped over the stolen horse. What happened? What happened with the thief? Ha! Master! You were right. We found the thief, and he was torturing the horse. The horse was so angry, it stepped on him and smashed him. And now he is as dead is dead, and he's very dead. Did he tell anything to you? Did he say anything to you guys? No. By the time we were there, he was already very dead. So now he's very, very dead. But he was still very dead. And, of course, Emmanuel lifts his eyes to Hashem. And when that morning he said Az Yashir with the greatest sigh, with tears in his eyes, but tears of emunah, tears of joy, as he says, Sus v'reichvai rama vayam, that Hashem threw the horse and his rider right into the sea. And that night, as he sang with tears, the haftacha of Hashem is what stood by us. That it wasn't only paroi, only not one. It wasn't only one person that tried to destroy us. Every generation they try. And with that, he continued, and the family could see this extra joy. And then by the hoidus at the end of Halal and Nirtza, he said, for the one that makes miracles alone. Of course, Hashem makes miracles alone. What, someone helps him? It means that sometimes only he alone knows the miracles. And as he shouted those words, Ki lo'olam chasdai, he then ahead said, tonight and last night, we have experienced firsthand Hashem's incredible miracles. Our family was saved. And then he was able to tell the whole family, which was once a horror story, the amazing story of the horse and his rider. And with that, he benched and screamed out that just like Hashem has shown us miracles in the past, that Lishana Haba B'Yerushalayim, may Hashem continue to show us miracles. And the one, we don't want to see anything else. We just want to see that one miracle which will take care of every problem. Lishana Haba B'Yerushalayim. And as the Frierdiker Rebbe says, it doesn't mean next year we should be in Yerushalayim. It means by next year, because our next Seder is next year. L'shana haba, by the time we have another Seder, we should already be in Yerushalayim. May that happen now. So finally, for the thousands of years that you've been crying, L'shana haba Yerushalayim, Hashem should answer our prayers, answer our tears. And L'shana hazois, this year Seder, we should be with the Korban Pesach in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh.